you can leave a feeling or a thought or you can really leave a lot of stuff kind of hanging or lurking with the last line of a chapter.
Right. I'll be back. I gotta blow my nose and
Okay, well,
probably procure sustenance of some sort. But if you're here when I'm back, that would be great. However,
oh,
I'm not
well,
your boss.
find some grapefruit juice or something. But I will talk about writing literally. I haven't figured out how long that possibly is, but it's a decent measurement of infinity. So, if you still want to talk about it, I'll probably still be here.
Hello.
I'm talking with it muted.
Nice.
Reminded me that I was also hungry, so I went and acquired some sustenance.
What did you acquire?
Pizza.
What kind of pizza?
And it was a margarita or whatever pizza.
What comes on that?
It's like cheese and tomatoes with like a pesto sauce.
Yeah, you seem to have a thing for pesto, and I have no idea what that is.
You don't like pesto deprived?
I just, maybe it's like close third person. Maybe I know what it is. I just don't know the term.
So it's usually served as like a pasta sauce. It's some kind of greens. It's kind of a green, chunky, crunchy paste. Usually like basil and garlic and olive oil and usually what kind of pinon nuts actually usually part of it, and then it's all kind of ground up into a paste.
Sounds more substantial than other salsas I'm used to.
It's usually doesn't take as much of it as like a marinara or something.
Uh-huh. Well, I opened up a sack of bread and threw some salami and Swiss on there. So,
Well, there you go. I went to the. I realized I didn't have very many groceries that I wanted to eat today, and so I went. So I got hungry, and then I went to town and went to the pub for happy hour, and it's like $5 for margarita pizza. So I got 2, so I could bring a bunch of leftovers.
yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. Outsourcing that SI to someone else.
Yeah, and it's all good and wood fired, like they do. Very good, very kind of Italian style pizzas there.
Mm-hmm.
And they washed all the dishes, and I just brought cardboard and pizza home, which I could eat the pizza and throw the cardboard away. So, the way to do it.
True. You could throw the cardboard away, or, that can use that as a plate for like a month. I used to think that maybe it was because I was like a bachelor or whatnot, that I was just kind of grimy in some ways until I met ENTPs, and I was like, no, there's an entire species of people that are like bachelors their entire lives.
Yeah.
Shit strewn everywhere, and it's just like, yeah, I've been using this pizza box as a plate for about a month. Excuse me. Really, I just think that's dominant intuitive shit right there. Is really what that is. It's just like, it's functional. It works well enough.
Yeah.
My mom would be like, "You need to clean your room. We're gonna get mice." And I was like, "I'd just like to state for the record that and yeah, the pauses included. It's like sometimes I won't even state anything for the record. I'll just be like, it's not the problem you think it is.
I've tried a few times, and it just never. I don't know. It just never works out. I go clean occasionally, sometimes, but usually one area. I've never managed to clean my whole house. and then go. If I get one done, every few months, then that's pretty successful. I remember, it's always funny, I remember my mom telling stories about my dad's apartment, like, before they got together. And, she tells, she's at SI Dom, so she tells these stories like they're horror stories. Like, oh, yeah, I totally get that. Like, yep, my clothes organization scheme is exactly the same. So we had like different piles of dirty clothes, and then he would just have like different, levels of actually needed cleanness. I'm like, yeah, that's about right.
I think maybe SI Doms. No, I think particularly SI Dom mothers probably get weirded out by the notion of the smell test.
Probably.
I mean, so I'm like, are there noticeable stains?
I forget about stains because I totally go out with things with like, but this I do the smell. You're like, does this really smell bad? And you'll notice that if you'll take things off and like leave them sitting for a week, they'll be smelling better than when you took them off. Like there's like a smell dispersion period. You're like, oh, okay. Like I kind of like these smelled bad last week, so but you're like, no, they're okay now. I think I'll wear them again.
I posit another theory that the smell disperses into your abode so much that when you go to smell it, you can't tell how bad it smells because you've been living with it.
Also very possible. I have tendency to shut my nose off and like not notice smells, or be like super aware of them, one or the other.
Sorry if my chewing is obnoxiously loud. Sometimes I forget that I bothered to buy a $200 mic.
Yeah. No, I can't tell.
It's like ASMR city for me, 24/7. Which would be nice if if half of my ASMR time wasn't me just doing that.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I love my mom, but I do feel sorry for her sometimes. I feel like she's kind of gotten to the point where she's just like, it still upsets her, but she can't do anything about it. Like she's also realized that things will never be clean at the house and things like that. And like,
Yeah. Poor sensors. I'm trying to get out of the omniscient third person mode because it'll help me understand that they're people too.
go write a story from a ISF.
I mean, seriously though, I can stop blaming people for being shitty narrators because they're not the narrators. They're just other characters.
Well, I think it's actually, I was going to mention a while ago, it's like, it's interesting, like you should be able to utilize your knowledge of like, typology and cognitive functions and Enneagram and stuff to kind of, that's a powerful tool for playing with characters.
Right.
And
however, I will need to get a more intimate understanding of how people think through things.
Yeah.
Might be a bit more easy to tell for me because I don't know if you noticed, but I fucking talk a lot, talk so much that eventually you're able to pick up on some sort of the pattern just because enough words come out of my face. Excuse me.
Yeah. It's been interesting. I've been going back and kind of contemplating some of my characters and trying to type them and be like, that's interesting. I think I actually end up writing a lot of ESTP kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because intuitives do too much thinking. It's not enough like getting into trouble accidentally,
if I were to write a hi Mark. No, it's cool, Mark. It's cool, Mark. You can have ideas. You're a character. Totally.
I actually tried to do that. I need to like reopen it, do that story.
Right. I might actually commit to writing Thaddeus Clavar. So I had a thought that might be interesting to write from the perspective of a character and then have an INFJ character who never gets a POV. That way it'll cut back on the whirlwind of dialogue contained within their head.
I was gonna say that's also an interesting format. Yeah, to have a character that's always there, but you never really get to see inside their head.
Yeah. See? And in this moment, after talking about this stuff, understanding a bit more about writing, I'm right back to being like, you know what? I love life. Life's cool. Life's pretty awesome. Earlier today, I was not thinking that. That's what I'm talking about with the sort of moment-to-moment thing. I gotta pay attention to it. That way I don't go slipping into the Stygian void of my mind.
There you go. I find writing is a good thing. One of the things that keeps me mostly entertained.
I never saved, did I? Oh, wait, I have to log in.
Yeah, it's fun to talk to you about this because I've like studied all this stuff, but until I get to talk to people and be like, they'll be like, "Hey, this," and they're like, "Yeah," that always makes me. It's like, okay, now I remember. I figured that out. I do like teaching stuff.
Right.
Sharing my revelations.
Oh, god dang it. I forget my login stuff for Storium. I'm going to go to Gmail and see if that's where I have the info. So I'm pretty sure I saved the character format.
That's good. Well, I didn't have enough people really join in the first time, so I figured I'd give it a few weeks and open it up again. It has not host Mark this early morning. What's what? Yeah, I was just saying hello, what's up, the standard
Hello.
whatever.
You ever thought about doing it musical style, Andra?
What?
You just bust out and be like, hello from the outside. What? You never been? Never been tempted?
No.
I've been tempted. I wish I had pipes like Adele. Her and Sia, because sometimes I really do just want to belt out and sing, I'm gonna swing from the chandeliers, from the chandelier. Yeah, but I can't go that because then I just go falsetto, and that's sad.
There you go. Yeah, I don't often. I'm not. Yeah, musical style isn't the thing. Like music is a different thing. I do that, but a friend of mine had a boyfriend for a little while that like literally everything he said was like he responded in song or something.
You were like, I don't know, he was some ENFP fucker.
I don't know. He was kind of turd. She didn't really have great choice. They were all annoying, honestly. I'm trying to figure out. She's probably like I don't know. One of those happy extroverted types. I don't know what she was. Her older sister was I think we talked about the ISTP. And in this it was all feely and different. They were always rolling their kind of funny.
Oh man, I really wish he would have finished doing that before he came in.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I do not accept your apology. However, I accept your David Borealis style hair.
Thank you so much.
Do you actually know who that is, or
No.
you've seen the TV show Angel or Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Man, like a long time ago.
Who's Buffy's fling? Not Spike, not the blonde guy, but the other one, Angel.
Let's see.
It was a compliment, by the way. I think I called Borealis. I think it's Boreanas or something. I don't know.
Wait, did you say not Spike? Oh, Angel, that guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy from Bones, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just let out one of those burps that went through my nostrils. I was like, it burns. So I don't believe I've met you before. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
It's not host Mark.
Oh,
What?
it is?
Yeah.
Ha, ha, ha. Just kidding, Mark. Just
No, it's cool. You're good.
well, I'd never seen you on cam. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's been a while.
God damn it, I feel like I'm stained. It's been a while since I could say that I wasn't addicted. Yeah. That's it. So it's
Pretty
in the wee morning for you. You're sitting here at your computer. You're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe some things. Stuff and things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reading right now, and then I got to write a paper on it.
What you reading about?
Zhang He was like a Chinese admiral of the Ming period.
Well, obviously, duh.
Yeah, he was a Muslim. He was a eunuch, and then he became Buddhist later.
Sounds
He
like
did
a fucking
expeditions.
hipster. That's what he sounds
Yeah,
like.
he was. I mean, he got giraffes and stuff and brought them back to China, and all the Chinese people were like, "Whoa, giraffes, bro!" So it's pretty cool. Basically, he just set up a system of tribute, like in different places in the world, and they paid respect and prostrated before the Chinese and gave tribute. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So now, Audra, how would you work in a famous character who's not a POV character and only reference them through POV characters?
How would you do it, or what are you asking?
I don't know what I'm asking. That's the thing, is I'm asking how would you do it, but I don't know what answer to
Okay.
expect.
Emphasis on the me. Okay. I don't know.
I'm
I mean,
just
it
like,
just
I could do this.
depends on the character. I mean, and how they're placed in that world. I mean, you can, because honestly, like different people's perspectives on a character, I think is really interesting. I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, I do it all the time in first person perspective because most characters are that way in that case. I mean, there's just a lot of different ways. I mean, it's not really hard. It would just depend on what your goal was, and I guess how on how close, how much interaction the character had with point of view characters. Like that's what would, I think, more determine the level of difficulty.
It would also be super frustrating if it's like the POV character I trust to have their shit together really doesn't have much information on this person, but then all the shitty POV characters whose words I totally don't trust, they're the ones saying all the shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. Like, I mean, definitely something that I've done is for a large part of the book or something, you'll only get secondhand descriptions or perspectives on a character, and then later you might get a little closer one. Yeah, I guess there's. I can't remember if that character has a point of view chapter or not. I use a lot of I'll do throwaway point of view chapters where a character gets only maybe only gets their
Mark,
personal.
why?
What's up?
Why would you do that?
What?
Or were you just changing the volume? I thought you were just like
Yeah,
intentionally.
I was just changing the volume on it.
I thought you were just a social terrorist and you wanted to watch the world burn through clicking.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm sure it was distracted.
Shit was like so. Like I just had an instance right now. I got this little mirror set up in my room, and what most likely occurred is that I sort of have floaters in my eyes. There's a few of them, just like little specks that bounce around. My guess is that light caught it at an interesting angle, and my brain rationalized it as, oh, I saw movement in the mirror, and then I thought, oh, that'd be super creepy if there was something in my room with me, and then I was thinking, in close third person, that'd be kind of cool if you had a character who was like thinking that they were seeing shit, but it was like sort of up for grabs, and you're like desperately in need of some other character to be around them while they're thinking that they're seeing shit.
Right.
So then you could write in a twist because it's like, oh, the stable character. Oh, they didn't see anything. Haha, it works out. And it turns out the stable character is the jacked up one.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's like the stable character is the one that's drugged. They're not drugged or whatever, brainwashed. Like they're not seeing the shit that's actually there because they're like in some sort of like. Oh, did you ever watch the TV series Westworld? I mean, like the recent one.
I haven't yet. I want to.
Okay, never mind. Fuck.
Saw the old one.
I haven't seen the old one.
Yeah, I was thinking. I've done a couple of things like that. I was thinking it's actually the fantasy novel I wrote with a friend of mine. There's one of the characters kind of loses their Seeing things that aren't there in the other
bel-
character.
I believe the child-friendly term is losing their marbles.
Yeah, there were reasons for it, but I like to do it where you don't realize they're doing it and kind of mess with. You're like, wait, why are they here?
Yeah, I got that watching Mr. Robot. It's a
Oh.
TV show.
But I like there to be a reason. Like this, just a plain old dream sequence isn't enough of a reason. It's got to have some sort of causation that they're in that state,
Mm-hmm.
or you just really, really need some sort of thing. Like I really need this exposition, but I guess I'll do this. Just kind of hate it while I do it.
It's kind of like that Fight Club effect. Where it's like
Yeah.
you got the character that's like, oh yeah, this character. And then even other characters that are like, oh yeah, that character. And then that person finds out, oh wait, shit, that's me. It's like, surprise.
Yeah, Fight Club's a good one. Have you seen the movie The Prestige?
Yeah, I can't remember some of the particulars, but yes.
Okay. Well, the book was better, and the book did a really interesting job of keeping the secret from you.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about interesting examples. That one, because I read the book, and it was like before I watched the movie, and it was like, oh, and I was actually kind of surprised at twist. Like they did a good enough job, I thought. Kind of, but at the same time, you were like, oh, duh. You're like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, I
like,
noticed at the end of that movie, it's like,
yeah, but I totally missed that the way you were writing this. You know, that was an interesting.
yeah, in that movie when it's like the end and it's like Hugh Jackman in the tank. It's like done, and it's like you don't need to dun me, motherfucker. I already knew that.
Yeah. Well, were you surprised? Like, what was it like watching it, not knowing what the secret was? Just out of curiosity.
I was actually surprised by the twins.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just more generally intrigued by the Hugh Jackman side of things.
Right. Well, the twins was kind of the tricky secret, I thought.
Right.
And that's the one in the book that kind of, because you more or less read the book from both of their perspectives, but you don't realize you're reading two different perspectives.
Right.
Like, oh. Yeah.
I wonder if there were subtle hints in the way that they said certain things or thought about things that you could have picked up on.
The way I remember it, I think there was, there were hints, but
Have you heard of people training otters? Is that a thing?
what about people training otters?
Yeah, is that a thing?
I don't know.
Is that legitimate? It says like they trained otters and they worked in pairs to herd shoals into the nets. Like they were herding fish into nets. I don't know if I buy that.
It's a cool idea. I have no
I mean,
idea.
South Park seems to think that the otters are going to make it the next species of greatness. So,
Yeah, that's weird.
and he's gone.
The otters got him.
Yeah. Like, he knows too much. I will crack your skull upon my belly. I see how it is. Mark and Mark going over to TWP1. See what's up. Oh, okay, never mind. He's not a traitorous bastard. See, good way of showing that whatchamacallit, close third person. See, I had my own opinions. I'm sorry, by the way, Audra. I'm just milking this analogy as best I can.
Okay.
Trying to see in how many different ways it works.
Like, see how many ways you can apply it.
Right.
And how that, yes, useful or whatever.
Who's the camera? The blanket camera.
Is that you again, Mark?
Mark is down there typing. Oh, they're gone.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is just coming up with strange names for things, like towns or people.
Yeah, that's an interesting exercise.
Because I don't really like... I don't really like basing it off of any sort of language, because I don't really know what to do with that, because I feel like I need to know more about a language, but yeah, plus there's an added level you can add when it's like a made-up language.
Yeah. I use a lot of Greek sometimes when it amuses me. Or variations.
Like
Sometimes I jokes with my co-author. But like, it amuses us to name these mountains this. That means X. Kind of.
I think some of them that I came up with was Manel, De Lach, Busca, and then I had one who, like, and the character was basically like, call me Jorg, because his actual name is Yor Yam Mawasugath.
There you go. Well, I have a predilection for names that are easy to pronounce. And I pay a lot more attention to I pay a lot of attention to the visual kind of footprint of a name.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important, you know, and understanding, like, if you're going to have multiple characters, like, if they're visually similar, you know, geometrically, or sound similar. Like, occasionally you might intentionally have characters whose names are similar for some reason, but in general you don't want to do that, because it, again, confuses the reader and makes them have to think when you don't want them thinking.
Something you just said there reminded me of a horror story I'd listened to. It's like, basically the premise is like this dude, I think it was like house sitting for like his professor or something. His like literature professor. Like, I think his professor like really astounded him with like the work that he produced. He was like the writing that he makes is like so powerful, and it's just so visceral. Like he wondered how like he could get inside a, you know, like how he could encapsulate such a tortured soul that way in his writing. And it's like, I think he, for some odd reason, is like searching around the dude's house or something, and goes up into the attic, and it's like there's just sort of a humanoid figure in the corner, and it's like they're frail and they're like super pale, and it's like they barely resemble a person anymore. It's like, I think he asked them like, who are you? And it's like there's this moment where it's like the character's like, he had to get him to repeat, because it's like he heard it but it didn't click. Like, he was like, repeat it or something. He's like, what? He's like, and then it finally clicks that the humanoid figure over in the corner, when asked who are you, responded toy as its name. And he was like, huh, like that. And it's like, he was like, I think chained, and it's like he tries to get away and the thing like leaps on him, and I think he ends up strangling it to death or something. But basically it turned out that this was the source of the dude's writing. Now, the reason why I brought up the story is because you said name and the image or like footprint it can have. It's like, I thought that was a good example of like the character's name being toy. It's it's like yeah, I think that story resolved itself by him accidentally killing the dude. The author guy comes home, but the dude who was so engrossed in his writing and like was so taken back by it actually chains himself up and volunteers to be the next toy because like he wants to actually experience the writing. Weird masochistic shit you probably wouldn't understand, but yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's something that I think names are important. A lot of times I'll put in names when I'm starting a character or story, and then later I'll go back and change them because after I know the character better, it's more clear what they need to, what name suits them.
I think it's powerful when you can somehow find that perfect mix of like just average term to describe a very ominous character. Like just sort of like a common phrase or like word or something like that. I'm trying to think of an example.
Right.
Actually, something that's coming to mind was from the movie Looper.
Yeah.
The name of the kid who ends up developing strong telekinesis, like just the term they had for him was the Rain Man. And they're like,
Right.
okay, you know, whatever the Rain Man. They're like, nah, man, like the Rain Man, like he reigns over shit.
Right. Yeah, it's that's an interesting thing to play with. Yeah, I like sometimes the simpler names. I do tend towards simpler ones.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite, Raymond D. Feist wrote some fantasy books that I read, and I just remember there's some flaws in his writing, things I don't like, but just one of the greatest things is he has this like super powerful wizard character, right? He's kind of the main character in all his books. And anyway, but he's like this big, sorcerer, and his name is Pug.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I love that. You're like, his name isn't, like Gandalf or, Sauron. It doesn't have this like big fancy highfalutin name. He's just like, no. He's got this really simple, basic name. And, but he's this really powerful, kind of scary guy. And you're like, I enjoyed that. I always remembered kind of how powerful that was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've read books that, and I don't quit reading. I do more now, but when I was younger, like there was very few things that would make me quit reading a book. But I remember picking up one and like on the first page, it's like all these names are like, gobbledygook. And you're like, yeah, no. I just stopped right there. It's like, nope. Already confused.
I actually like some of the gobbledygook, but I'm kind of particular about it.
Strategic gobbledygook, but too much gobbledygook is way too much gobbledygook.
It's like I felt like the name I came up with, Mala, was simple enough.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the name of the ruins, excuse me, spelled it Kouweth, so Kaweth.
there you go.
Now, somebody reading it might not know that. They might be like, Kouweth. But it's sort of up to the reader to either quicken or drag out syllables.
Right. You don't want to confuse them with things that don't go together, but as long as it's relatively easy to digest, then it's not bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But, even those names, like, so is there a vibe or that you associate with those names that you want those names to convey?
I mean, I think kind of like with Mala, I think there wasn't too much I was trying to put into that name other than she's a character that you're following. So I think that kind of fits. And then with Kouweth talking about the ruins, I think it eventually would have fit in. I think more so those names allow for the expansion that I was expecting to make. I think certainly naming Charred Black Ruins Kalweth is more fitting to Charred Black Ruins than, having this. I mean, like, it's better than something like Charred Black Ruins of Domeland, or
Right. Well, I'm just
something.
talking about the vibe with the sounds and everything. Because to me, the sounds of words and and how they sound and what meaning they seem to.
Yeah. Well, for me, something like Kalweth, it almost sounds like something that. I mean, it almost sounds like the name of an ancient place, at least when in reference to like the British Isles or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like the idea of, in this alternate world, there's like these ruins or whatnot. It's like, I don't know, I think it gives a sense of, like, it's fitting that the ruins would have a outdated name attached to them.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, I think I'm probably, to me, I do it more with characters. Usually place names, I just kind of goof off, and sometimes they're like some random inside joke with myself, and sometimes they're just like, I like those sounds.
Yeah, now that you're kind of talking about God, see, the fucking, I'm so glad you told me about that, because it's like, finally I'm like, oh my God, layers. Like, it's not a top-down view. Like, finally you get to be in the muck. And I'm comparing that with omniscient third person.
Right.
Because I was thinking, it's like there might be a city, and I was thinking to myself, like, I'd like the idea of a city, like, being a character. And I was like, how would that manifest? I was like, holy shit, you would have characters going into the city, and they each experience it differently. There's certain things that seem to be common, but how it's taken in by different characters is different, and you see it sort of, it's giving information that they're interpreting. It's as its own character, it's making itself present, and it's sort of putting itself out there as a physical entity to which others then can receive and judge.
Right.
Especially, I think it would be the most straightforward in characters where they just stick to the surface. They're walking around with the people, and you might get from one character's perspective that, oh, this is a very busy cosmopolitan place. A lot of markets are open, but that character might really only hang out by the markets, by the front gate. They might rent a tavern room. They might hang out in the tavern, but until another character gets introduced, or unless that character changes their routine heavily enough, you won't get to see, like, oh, these other parts of the town where it's like the stonework is much older, and people don't go around here as much, and you'll get the occasional beggar, if you're not careful, the occasional mugger in this part of it, and things just seem older and more forgotten and more clandestine and whatnot, and you might have a character that's more drawn to that. And yeah.
Well, then, another layer is that, you've got the state of the city and the different places. If you were trying to, there's a lot of information that can be conveyed about, like, the larger economic or political situation of maybe the, containing nation or whatever of that city, and you can see how, or maybe how it's changed recently. And I've done some stuff like that in one of my books, and you're like, kind of showing what political and economic shifts have been in the recent past by certain features of, like, a town or something, or the people in it. Yeah. No, but like I said, the name thing, back to that just for a second. I think that's an important thing to consider. You can ignore it, of course. Like, all of these things can be ignored, but I always believe in consciously ignoring them rather than accidentally. That would be, my basic writing philosophy is know all the rules, know all the whatevers, know as many of the expectations and things that you can do and control, and make your choices about what you're actually going to going to control, or be like, nope, I'm breaking that rule. But always break the rules intentionally. Yeah, I think names are powerful. I think they really important to either, to make choices about why you pick it, what a name is going to do to your character, and change how they're perceived.
One of my favorites.
Marketing thoughts. You're like, all right, I'm writing a thriller series that's probably, if it becomes a series, is going to be, the series will be identified by the character name, right? What sounds proper for that sort of character, for that sort of series, or different things like that.
Pug.
Pug, yeah. Well, like an example would be my thriller. Like it's one of the big ones I changed. Like the character's original name, I think, was Carmen Wesson, and I don't know why. It just amused me. I liked the way the name sounded.
Uh-huh.
By the time I had finished writing the character ways, I realized that name didn't have the right kind of ring to it that I wanted. It didn't fit well because it's in third person, so you're calling that person's name a lot.
Yeah.
You're mentioning it, and it was too soft, too many syllables. Weston did this, or Carmen did, like it didn't work, whatever it was. So I went back and changed it, and I decided I wanted sharper name with less syllables. And so I eventually settled on Cass as the first name because I liked that. And then I played around with the last name, and I finally went with Elkins, which is kind of an inside joke with myself, but also I just liked the way it gave kind of I wanted a last name that was sharp and kind of unique, but also kind of felt like it might have a bit of a Southwestern kind of flair. I think that especially in real world type stuff, in realism, I try to, you can convey a lot about history and stuff with a name.
Right.
Anyway, that's why I settled on. But I finally played around with them. It's like that actually looks good. Looks good on paper. Stands out from other names.
So now,
good by itself. So if you're, calling by the first name, calling by the last name, those both work good. And
right.
Just ended up like I played around. And that was the one I settled on, and I've actually gotten a lot of people who said,
Yeah. Two things. One, in reference to names, one story I thought was cool was the name of the story and the name of a village/town that was prominent in the story. It's this dude gets on a train and is he's like trying to travel and ends up, I think, having to make a pit stop somewhere. Like the train, like yeah, sorry, you got to stop here. Wait for the next one. He stops off in this town, and I think he reads either somebody tells him or he reads like the sign outside, and it's just called Burden. He's like, Burden? What an awful name for a town. And it's like, it very much coincided with the character of the town and the overall theme. It's like you had like these two families or like clans going to war, and he's like, "What? Why does everybody have to kill each other?" And they're just like, "It's just the way it is." But yeah. So that one sort of stuck with me as a town name. I was like, "Damn, that's pretty cool." Burden.
Yeah, that can work sometimes.
But there's that, and then
kind of like fail horribly too.
There's that, and then what else? I was gonna say something else. Something or other. I think I was going to try to ask with close third person, because you mentioned like a name, like their name getting called out. Do you only refer to the name and stuff like that if like other characters are calling it out?
No, I mean, because you'll do it in the narration at times.
Because I'm just wondering like what's allowed for, even though it's close. Like I'm wondering like what's the third person portion of it.
Well, I mean, you're still talking about like the person. So if we're doing Cass Elkins, would be like Cass, gassed up her motorcycle and checked her watch. But if it's starting a chapter or starting a scene, you're still going to have to call out which character it is.
Right. So it's like you can say Cass gassed up her motorcycle.